I had to unlearn not a lot of stuff that I was taught in school, but I had to kind of pocket that information. Like I had the tools, but I also had to remember that I'm a person and I'm human, and so are the individuals that I'm working with. And when you just take all of that stuff out the picture and just have a conversation with someone, it can open so many doors.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace Kearse, and I am the Digital Marketing Specialist for the Institute for Family. I am super excited to be here, not only because I have the pleasure of our guest I'm about to introduce, but because we're going to be talking about some things that are pretty important to the advancement of child and family well-being. So, hi, Jamilah. Could you introduce yourself to our guests?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. I am Jamilah McClain, and I work as a program supervisor for the Foster Care and Adoption Program with the Children's Home Society of North Carolina. And I'm also a voice of assistance and advocation for the Institute. So it's a pleasure to be able to just support the Institute for Family in any way I possibly can, because the mission is so great and it's needed. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to talk to you. We have Social Worker Appreciation Month, and it is also Women's History Month. So love that.
Yes.
And, we just got out of Black History Month, which is honestly to me a year-long celebration.
Absolutely.
But it's just really great to it's really great to celebrate those things with you now. How did you get started in social work?
When I first was on my way to college to NC State, I was saying that I was going to be an engineer. I went to NC State thinking, yes, this is it. I'm going to be a Black engineer, Black female engineer. And quickly, I learned that this is not for me. The math and the science was just so very overwhelming. I think NC State, after a while, was just like, yeah, you don't, this is not what you need to do with your life. I need for you to think about a different career path. So sat down and talked with my mom, and my mom encouraged me to talk to my aunt. And my aunt was a licensed clinical social worker in Chicago. So she worked in some of the some of the what they call the rougher areas in Chicago, and worked in the hospitals in Chicago. So I had a conversation with her just about social work and what that was. And it was really a lot of what I was raised to do and didn't know I was doing it. My mom was an educator in the Durham public school system. And she worked in a lot of the underserved communities. That's where her schools were based in. So, I was a student at the school she taught at. So after school, it wasn't we're going right home. After school, sometimes it was we're going to Miss Williams' house, or we're going to Miss Jones' house to drop off these groceries, or to drop off this or that, because so-and-so didn't have breakfast this morning. We want to make sure that they do so they can get to school the next day. Or so she was acknowledging that and seeing that within her students. So she wanted to make sure that they had what they need so that they could come to the classroom and focus and be present. And so I was just going along for the ride, like running to the grocery store, getting this and that with mom and dropping things off. And it didn't register what I was doing. But then when my aunt was saying, like, this is like something that you do second nature, and what you've been doing is social work the whole time. You've been helping people. You've been, your mom has taught you to see that their needs and you can feel them. So, I just like, okay, well, I'll take a social work 101 class. And once I took it, I was like, oh my God, there's so many different things that I can do within this profession. And it kind of went from there.
That's really awesome. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of college students might also connect with that, just like finding a major and finding your passion while in the pursuit of just figuring out life. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it also sounds like you have like a family legacy of just feeding into people and like helping others. That's really cool.
Yeah.
If you had to choose only 3 words to describe the Black woman experience in the field of social work, what would they be and why?
I would say rewarding. And like I was saying, just rewarding from the perspective of just being able to help others, being able to give to others, being able to support others, being able to listen to people that don't feel like they have voices, being able to just assist where there's a need, and knowing that I have the capabilities to do so and to support the best I can is a very rewarding experience. Like, it was just rewarding for me. It can be very very emotionally draining as a Black woman in social work, just because I think generationally, and I hate to go all the way back to our ancestors, but when we arrived in, I think it was 1619, yeah, 1619, when our ancestors arrived here in Virginia, off of the ship, we were considered property. Period. Like, you're nothing. You have no feelings. You have no nothing. I can do anything to you as long as you follow what I asked of you to do. That that was the start of like intergenerational trauma for us, because we were silenced. We weren't able to talk about our feelings, because if we did, we would, get hurt. We would get lynched. We, separated from our families. We were experimented on because we thought people assumed that we were property and we didn't have any feelings. So we were just mistreated. And as a result, we kept it within. And those messages of silence kind of carried on through generations. But in that message of silence, I feel like made us feel like, we can't say that we're not okay. And we can't say that, I can't do that today. It's always, yes, I can do it. I'm Superwoman. I have the capabilities to do it. So we have this tough exterior. And so when it gets hard, when this line of work gets hard, and when we're just constantly going and knocking on doors of people of color, and they don't have what they need, or seeing families being separated that look like us, that is emotionally draining. And it's you feel like you can't say anything to anyone about it, because if you do, you're going to be labeled as like weak, or you're not tough enough to do this job. And that's not the case. It's just, you need that moment to just release and say, like, this is hard. I'm looking at someone that looks just like me, who in a second, this could be me. And I'm having to talk to them about removing their kids from their custody. That's not fun. And so it can be very draining, because you don't feel like you have that release, just because no one really has taught us how to just say, I'm not okay. And I think the other piece is just, I would say, just comforting to know that I can look around in a room, if I'm sitting in a space in a meeting of social workers, and see faces of color. A lot of my friends who work like in corporate America and things like that, they can't really say that. They look around the room and they get discouraged sometimes, because they don't see a lot of their faces. They don't see a lot of them, that they can look to. So it can feel lonely, and you can feel like you're by yourself within the companies that you work for. But for my experience in social work, I have been in spaces and in rooms where there are multiple number of women of color, even men of color, who are social workers. And so it lets me know that, we're doing something good here. And we're nurturing that, and we're promoting to train, more social workers of color to come into this field, because it's needed. And I'm seeing the results of it.
And I like to always remind people, whenever we're speaking about representation and diversity, that that's just such a blanket term, because it really covers Black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian,
Yep.
people who are able-bodied or not,
Mm-hmm.
trans, different
Yes.
ages. Can you speak to the importance of diversity and representation in the field of social work, and just how that impacts the people's lives that you're interacting with?
Absolutely. And I think you kind of touched on it in itself. It's just hugely important. It's important, I think, well, I know, like it to be able to talk to someone that looks like you when you are in a place of vulnerability, when you are fearful, when you don't know what's going to happen to your family or what's next. It's very comforting to be able to see someone that looks like you. That's the first step, like what you see. Like I see another Black person coming into this door. Sometimes that's comforting for some, but sometimes that's not enough because they don't they don't trust, that person coming in their door, whether you're a person of color or, from the LGBTQI community, any other culturally, any other cultural background. It's just the fact that, you have to be able to sit down, you have to be able to listen, you have to be able to connect on that level and build that rapport and build that relationship with that individual. But I do feel like it's important to know that my culture and where I come from plays a huge part in being able to build that relationship and that rapport with that other person of color that I'm sitting across from, because I can connect with the experience. I can't connect to what you are going through in this moment, but some of the experiences that you have maybe been confronted with in your life, I'm connected to. So I think that lends the hand in helping to build that rapport and that relationship with someone else. So I think that having diversity within the field of social work is hugely important, because we work with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And I'm not an expert in everything, but I'm an expert in being Black. And so, right, I'm an expert in being Black. So, I can relate to some experiences, and not everybody, not like I said, everybody's experience is different, but being Black in America, yeah, I can connect with that. So, I'm very empathetic to people of color when I'm working with them, because I know that we have a long lineage that we're working with of suppression and oppression. And we have to be patient and we have to be compassionate about that. And everybody can't connect to that experience because it's not what you come from. So that's why I think representation of so many cultural backgrounds are important in this field.
What systemic disadvantages do you see in general within child welfare?
I think with any system, because when you talk about systems, and child welfare is a system, they weren't built to support people of color. They just, in my eyes, they weren't. They were built to keep them where they are, or either to, tear them down. And so I think that when we talk about systems, especially the child welfare system, it is one that is not conducive to what it says it's doing. Now there are reforms going on, and there are a lot of people like the Institute for Family that are doing a lot of legwork to reverse some of the damages that have been done within the child welfare system. But separating the families, not having resources for these families in order to keep them within their community, to keep them within their family. Just the lack of kind of concern for family. More so just making sure the child is safe, which is hugely important. But the how can I say, the time spent to try to figure out what could we have done to not separate this family, to not take this child out of this home, I think has been lacking for a long time. And even when I was doing the work in as a child protective service investigator, I didn't have any coaching about, Jamilah, when you go into this home, you sit down and you talk to the family about tools that they can utilize, or resources that they can utilize in order to, help support them to be the best version of themselves that they can be, providing, whatever resources they need. No, my job was just to go out, investigate abuse, neglect, or dependency. And, whatever you find from that, that's what you're putting in your report. And you're leaving them with a safety assessment that says you're either deemed safe and, follow these rules until I come back, or, or, I am calling the police and getting a court order. So in the next hour, the child is packing up their stuff and they're coming with me. And it's no recourse or time to sit down and process with a family. It's just you're working just, step by step by step by step, but nothing in those steps is telling you to consider that this is a family. It's like something you were supposed to know, but just being a green social worker out of the field, you go from textbook to knocking on somebody's door and saying, "Hi, my name is Jamilah, and I'm here to investigate this report of these allegations." You're like a deer in headlights, So for me, I didn't know, so I had to learn how to build that tough skin, all at the same time to try to be compassionate, all at the same time trying not to lose my job, because if you don't follow a certain policy the correct way, you could be, pulled into a director's office to say what happened, because you're trying to make sure someone is safe. So our system was not set up to help promote families. It was set up exactly what it is designed to do, and that was to keep children safe by any means necessary. And I think we have got to continue to do a better job at recognizing that these families don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to do something dangerous to my child. Like that's just, it's not what they do. It happens as a consequence of not feeling a need. It's something that's needed, and they tried and they tried and they tried to get it. Nobody heard them. And this is the consequence of it. So if anything, it's us that needs to be taking a look in the mirror saying, what didn't we do right to help support this family when they were reaching out for something? And that's what these systems need to realize. Like, people of color are flooding these systems because of a need that's not filled. We got to figure out what that need is, because it's available. We just got to figure out where it is and how to get it to these families so that we can stop this cycle, this ongoing cycle of just in and out of all these systems that aren't doing anything to support us. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Just thinking about your work in social work, are there any items or topics or just things you had to yourself unlearn?
Things that I had to unlearn. I would say I had to unlearn that idea of that I can save the world. I went into social work with the mindset that I was going to be the next Oprah, the Oprah of social work. Like, everybody is saved. I did that. Or everybody that I talk to and work with is going to be saved because I'm coming in from this non-judgmental standpoint and I can help anybody. Yeah, no, that is not, that's just not the case. So I had to unlearn, not a lot of stuff that I was taught in school, but I had to kind of pocket that information. Like I had the tools, but I also had to remember that I'm a person and I'm human, and so are the individuals that I'm working with. And when you just take all of that stuff out of the picture and just have a conversation with someone, it can open so many doors. And I was so much more successful when I would just knock on a door and say, look, I know you don't want me here right now. I know it is not the best time for this. I completely understand. And if you want to talk to me more about how you're feeling right now, I will stand here for however long you want me to in order for you to get it off your chest, because this is not what you thought would happen today. And I'm here to make this, as comfortable as I possibly can for you in such a yucky situation right now. So whatever you need for me to do, I will try my best to do that in order to, get us through this together, and explaining to them what this process is. Many times, a lot of folks, when I was working in Child Protective Services, they didn't know what we did. They just thought that you come in and you take my baby. That's it. So that is a scary, that's a scary thing. So I probably would cuss me out too if I was knocking, if I came knocking on the door, which I did get a lot of. Um, like I said, so I had built a lot of tough skin. But once I unlearned some of the things like sit upright, have to follow, this rule and that rule and this and doing those checklists from school, in my head, that was causing me that was the barrier. That was causing me not to connect with these families. But once I kind of just got to the point of just the stress was just so much for me, I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go in here, knock on this door and talk to this family. That was my aha moment. So that is when the Oprah, came in. It was like, aha, this is it. Jamilah, you got it. Like, just talk to them because they're people. You connect with people. That's what you do. It's not a textbook to talking to people. It's a textbook of how to complete the paperwork to do what I had to do when I was talking to the people. But nobody can teach you, like, this is what you say next. This is what you say next. No, get out of your head with that. So it was just opening that dialogue. So I had to unlearn 4 years, well, 4 years, and then the years of graduate school. I was able to process it a little better because I had like a lot of groundwork with my child protective service days. So once I unplugged that, like, that was the door that really helped me a lot, because it's all about building relationships. It's all about connecting with families, understanding where they are, and I can meet them where they are, and we can go along the journey together. But if I think that I'm in control, I got this, I have the power to do X, Y, and Z, and coming into your home in that manner, then it's always going to be a battle. And so I had to break that. Yes, I knew what I could do in my job, but I didn't want that family to feel that threat of that, because they're human beings and I need to engage them as such. And so that's what I did. And as a result, it was wonderful. Like, we laughed a lot, connected with the kids, so it was a better experience for me in that field, because I was able to just do that and just connect and listen to the families and meet them where they are.
I think there's a lesson in that for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Like, the world would be a much better place if we all just take more steps to connect with one another, show
Absolutely.
empathy and compassion, and get out of our heads and really understand that we're all really in this together and we're all the same on the same playing field.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do social workers develop that skill set to really, or can you speak to the importance of them developing the skill set for the diverse communities that they may serve?
Mhm. I think skill sets that are important are just communication is huge. Knowing how to communicate, understanding your biases, just being able to be real with yourself. And I say, just talk to yourself in the mirror and have that real conversation about, your biases and what you have, because if not, they would transfer into your work. Being able to advocate, not being afraid to share your ideas. Like I said, these young people have so many great ideas. Like, it's like mind blowing. And I'm just in awe. And I'm like, well, was I just slow in school? Like, what? Why couldn't I, think of things like this? But, I'm not even going to hate, because I'm just like, this is a wonderful thing. Like, these ideas are, so just nurturing them, and don't let anybody tell you that, it can't be done, because there's somebody out there that will believe in your idea and make it happen and put it out there. And so I just say, like, be innovative, be different, embrace that, because it's needed in this world. Self-care is huge. It's important in this field of social work. If you don't do it now, start practicing it, because you will get lost in this work, and before you know it, you will be burnt out. And it happens a lot faster than we realize it. So I just, can't impress upon self-care. And it's something that you need to hold yourself accountable for early, before you get too late in this game, where it's just like you feel bad if you take a vacation. So just that. And advocating, understanding the history of the people that you're working with. That's that cultural diversity, understanding intergenerational trauma a bit more. It doesn't just apply to African Americans. Intergenerational trauma, I'm sorry, it follows any person, of any color. We all have a past, we all have a history, and you just follow, the undertones of what has been passed along throughout those years. And when you get to present day, you're just like, oh, this is why, we probably think the way we do, or probably why we do some of the things that we do. And it really helps provide that clarity that you need to understand, like, this is why, and this is what I can do to help stop it. This is what I can do to help make it look different, because it's not my fault. Like, this is just something that was been programmed, because these were responses to certain things that happened to individuals in their past, and it just passed along. So I'm just understanding that connection, I think, is important too. So just those skills, I think are just huge, especially in the field of social work.
Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me today. That concludes our discussion, and I am super excited to see the outcome of this. And I really hope people feel inspired by all of your great nuggets of wisdom. And I just want to say thank you to everyone tuning in and watching. Please feel free to like, comment, share, or follow the Institute for Family so that you can stay up to date on more conversations like this.